anti-corruption initiatives. At the beginning of 2019, I intimated that the Commission was putting in place measures to complement the government's call for all institutions to join hands in the fight against corruption. This fight continues and continues to gain traction. The fight becomes even more relevant this year in light of the theme we have adopted. Corruption is the antithesis of the concepts of transparency and accountability. The UNDP report on, quote, a transparent and accountable judiciary to deliver justice for all, unquote, states as follows, quote, an independent and impartial judiciary is a cornerstone of the rule of law and of a democratic state. It serves to protect human rights and people's liberties, provides a check on other branches of government, and helps secure an environment conducive to the economic growth and social progress. Therefore, when corruption occurs in the judiciary, it undermines the very principles of fairness and due process of law, and can negatively affect much needed investment in developing countries. It erodes the public confidence that judicial outcomes are just and without undue pressure or influence from outside. Where this lack of confidence is strong and has become commonplace, it can weaken the legitimacy of an institution and the faith in democratic governance, unquote. During the course of 2019, the Commission scaled up its efforts in putting in place mechanisms connected with the fight against corruption. I advised in my address at the beginning of the 2019 legal year that I had directed the Commission Secretariat to open more specialized anti-corruption courts at Masvingo, Mutare, and Gweru. I am happy to announce that the target was exceeded, as the courts were not only opened at those stations, but also at Marondera and Bindura. Those new courts are in addition to similar courts in Harare and Bulawayo. Decisions or rulings in corruption cases made in the specialized courts were appealed against or taken on review to the High Court, where they ended up on the rolls of ordinary cases. The determinations of the issues on appeal or review were delayed. A perception then developed in the public that the administration of justice was not serious about the publicly declared commitment to fight corruption. A decision was made to establish specialized anti-corruption courts in the High Court. The courtrooms for use by the division are currently under renovations. In consultation with the Judge President of the High Court, I have since appointed judges who will preside over the specialized anti-corruption courts in Harare and Bulawayo High Court. Whilst magistrates presiding over specialized anti-corruption courts have undergone several training sessions on how to deal with cases of corruption, the judges are yet to receive that kind of professional development. After noting the strides that other jurisdictions have taken in setting up similar courts, I made contact with my counterpart, the Honorable Chief Justice of Uganda, to seek assistance in the professional development of local judicial officers. Uganda has been running specialized anti-corruption courts for the last 10 years. They have, as a jurisdiction, done exceptionally well in the adjudication of corruption-related cases. I am positive that our judicial officers and other institutions involved in the fight against corruption will have a lot of lessons to draw from Uganda's experiences. A judge in charge of the Uganda Anti-Corruption Courts will be coming to Zimbabwe before the end of this month to share Uganda's experiences with judges and magistrates. We have also requested the same judge to interact with the other players in the justice sector, such as the National Prosecuting Authority, the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, and the Zimbabwe Republic Police. We have made the call before, and we will not tire of repeating that the fight against corruption requires the collective effort of all institutions involved in the administration of justice. Members of the public must also put their hands on deck. Investigators and arresting details must continue to sharpen their skills and make thorough investigations before arresting those suspecting of engaging in corruption and bringing them to court. Arrests must be based on the existence of a reasonable suspicion that the person has committed the offense with which he or she is charged. Ordinarily, when a decision is made to arrest a person on reasonable suspicion of having committed an offense, the intention would be to bring him or her to court for remand for trial. There must be knowledge on the part of the investigating, arresting details, and the prosecutor of the fundamental rights of an accused person, the enforcement of which would require a well-thought-out, carefully prepared, and meticulously presented prosecution case to vindicate the administration of justice. Weak prosecution cases must not be brought to court. They only serve to frustrate the ends of justice because the suspects end up being released at court for want of prosecution. That scenario lends credence to the notorious accusation of catch and release coined by some sections of society. The NPA must be careful, conscientious, and professional in executing its constitutional mandate of prosecuting criminal matters in courts. It is the NPA that must also properly advise the investigating arms of state, such as the ZRP and ZAC, on the strength of evidence required in each criminal case. If the NPA abdicates this crucial responsibility, the failure will serve to bring the administration of justice into disrepute, as inconclusive evidence will be presented before the courts. Legal practitioners are equally enjoined to play their constitutional role of representing their clients to the best of their abilities and in terms of the law. Legal practitioners are officers of the court and are expected not only to assist the court arrive at a just decision, but to behave ethically as well. The courts themselves are expected to be diligent and properly manage cases that are brought before them and to deliver decisions expeditiously. The courts remain the last bastion in the fight against corruption. A court that unnecessarily postpones matters and delays in the delivery of decision is an obstruction to the administration of justice. Allow me to restate that the fight against corruption must never be construed as a fight against suspects who are brought to court. It should never be interpreted as connivance by players in the justice sector to send innocent people to jail. The collaboration of players in the administration of justice is meant to result in an efficient justice system. That system will, on the other hand, ensure that those suspected of corruption but are innocent are quickly dealt with and discharged to allow them to continue with their lives and that those who are guilty have their punishments meted out without delay on the other. It is important that, as the Chief Justice, I make these pronouncements because they resonate with the concept of the rule of law. Every person arrested is presumed innocent until proven guilty and has a right to a fair trial before an independent and impartial court. This is a constitutional right that must be respected and cannot be derogated from. The limitations provided in Section 86 of the Constitution do not apply to that right. It is in this context that the law allows pre-trial applications to be made by accused persons. Any such application must be determined by the courts without delay. It is, however, unethical for legal practitioners to abuse these legal processes by making unmerited applications that are solely meant to delay trials. It is unprofessional to make frivolous applications that are meant to frustrate the administration of justice. It is the responsibility of the court to guard against such conduct and to make decisive and prompt decisions so that justice is seen to have been done. Meritorious applications of this nature must be granted without delay. Equally, non-meritorious applications must be disposed of without delay. This is a requirement of an efficient and effective administration of justice. The training of judicial officers will not be confined to anti-corruption initiatives only. It is a priority focus area for the Commission in 2020. To that end, the Commission will take advantage of gatherings such as the Temple Judges Symposium and other ad hoc arrangements to ensure the continuing professional development of judges. I am happy to advise that significant improvement has been noted in the quality of the work of magistrates in some areas, although there remains much room for improvement. Magistrates will undergo continuing professional development in issues such as analysis of facts and evidence, as well as procedural aspects of their work in the course of the year. All non-judicial staff will also receive training in various areas. The issue of customer and client care will be top of that agenda in order to re-emphasize the importance of the court's twin principles of transparency and accountability.